Welcome to the council update from the Tuesday, October 14th council meeting. First thing we did, we had 3 delegations that came in. First one from the Sheppard Family Park. And they just had some advising us of some amendments to their bylaws that we approved from our end. And then they just gave a detailed update on the park and the work that's been completed since the flood. Cold Trail Apartments and Townhouses delegation. This came from the Site Finders group. They're the ones that they have the development over in the back of Gas King. They built the Cold Trail Plaza, and they're going to be continuing that. Alan Matthews, one of the principals in that organization, came to discuss kind of a new vision as to how they would like to see that development continue. I've got my own questions on it, but because it hasn't come forth as a bylaw, there wasn't any questions that I allowed from councillors or anything, because you get into starting to debate a bylaw that isn't presented yet, and we can't be doing that. So they'll come back in November meeting sometime, and we'll get into that one. And then Corrine Finney from Bow Valley College just came in to give us an update on what the college is doing in High River and what she'd like to see going into the future. Councillor Loran spoke to the fact that we really need to be, when we do our economic development plan at Bow Valley College and the other educational institutions in this town, need to be very aware of what we're doing, because that's how they design their programming for the market in this community to create jobs, etc. So that was great. Then we got into the meeting. First thing was the 2014 second quarter investment report. Just a housekeeping thing from our CFO, Tom Meyer. We also did the 2013 transfer to capital infrastructure reserve. Now, those of you that actually go online and look at the council meeting minutes, you'll see that we have an operating surplus of $9.6 million. And it sounds, like, oh my God, how did we come to a number that big? But $7.5 million of that is, it's basically just accounting, where we got $7.5 million from MSI funds for the field house. They were transferred back into this because we took a loan out. This can get really complicated, but it's accounting people's domain to do that. So we were actually left with about $2 million that was basically a combination of a number of things where, we'd like to be putting at least $900,000 a year into capital infrastructure reserve so that we can repair roads and streets when we need to, rather than borrowing money for it all the time and not having the funds, and it drags things out. So there's $2 million sitting there, and the majority of that was from projects that were budgeted by the previous council that were covered following the flood and all the repairs that we did through that. So we are starting to look, we're in a very good position financially if we keep on track with these things. So going from there, Alteration of Lions Club loan repayment. Lions Club, when they did some improvements to George Lane Park a few years ago, the town of High River loaned them the money to do so, and then they paid it back from revenue generated through the park. So this was coming to change a bylaw so that we could defer the 2014 repayment of $7,800 and move that into, I think, 2018. But it would require the 4 motions to get the bylaw passed and everything. And Councillor Moore and Councillor Blockland, they've got experience in this, how this goes out. And Councillor Moore made a very good point that everything that they do in that park is a benefit to the town of High River. And, rather than muddying the waters more, I shouldn't have said that, but rather than making this more complicated than it needed to be, we just deferred the whole, or just forgave the amount owing of $38,900. Okay, the next thing we did was another batch of the 2013 property tax forgiveness. This was batch number 11. We forgave the amount of $60,130.35. This finishes up the 2013 property tax relief program with a total of 751 applications totaling just over $1 million. We're going into the 2014 property tax relief program. You can get more information on that, highriver.ca, see if you qualify, etc., as we go through this. So next thing was new Marigold library rates. This sets the rate, 2015 rates, which was a 2% increase to $73,800, and a 2016 rate to 2.1% increase to $75,300. Important thing to note, Diane gave a little presentation at the end of council meeting, but they're actively looking for people to be on the library board, so that if you know of somebody or you yourself want to get involved with what the library is doing, there's a lot of changes happening. It is an exciting time for these guys, so please contact the library or contact the town, and we'll get you on the library board. Next thing, Montrose Bridge rebuild. Kim Unger and Alexis Stone just gave us a little update on how the design is looking for the Montrose Bridge. The bridge will actually be completed within a couple of weeks here and reopened, so that'll be nice to have going into winter. And this was just showing us the signage, etc., and the locations for this stuff going into Montrose. And you know, from our standpoint, it looks amazing and it looks great. So next thing, Northwest Berm residents petition. This was an issue that started a few months ago, shortly after June, that a few of the residents contacted me, and I went out and spoke to them about the height of the berm, etc., that's out there. And you know, that's an area that gets hit first, and High River always has, and it's just the way the river flows that's the area that gets water first. So their concern was that they were losing their mountain view, and the berm was going to be too high, and everything else. And I assured them at that point in time that the berm would not be coming down, that there would be another at least 2 feet going on top of it, because it wasn't near completion yet. They obviously didn't like that answer, and so I told them, and they were going to do a petition, so I gave them a couple of links to online petitions that work very well. They chose to use a written one. Either way, it doesn't matter. So they petitioned their neighborhood along the Riverside Boulevard. And you know, I get it. It's a huge change, and yes, you had a beautiful mountain view off of your deck, but priority one in this town is to protect this town. That berm does not only protect the first line of houses, it protects the whole northwest area of this town. Everybody in High River knows how large that area is, and we are not going to sacrifice our priority for a mountain view. Anyways, there was 20 homeowners that signed this petition along there, which doesn't equate quite to half of the homes that are along that street. So there's an equal number of residents that are in favor of the berm. I've heard from a number of them, 5 or 6 of them since this thing started, and they are very much in favor of the berm being there. So when petitions come to us like this, you know, this was in no way, shape, or form a legal petition, but it was a petition from residents of High River, and I respect that. And it's something that the community needs to talk about. It doesn't. We could have just taken that and said thank you very much, and I'd have shelved it. And but I don't think that's the way to do these things. We all need to talk about why we're doing these things. And yes, there's a sacrifice that everybody has to put in for the safety of this town, and some more than others. You look at that problem in the northwest with the lost mountain view. You know, I can take you up into Hamptons, or I can take you to Wallaceville or Beechwood, where people were kicked out of their homes. So there's, you know, you can always look at your own scenario and think it's the worst, but doesn't take long. We all know that you look at your neighbor and there's probably something a little bit worse than what you are. So, you know, we spoke about it. I will be responding to these. The two main points to this petition are: no, the berm will not be lowered. No, the berm will not be moved. And there will be no compensation from the town of High River for perceived lost home value. My argument back to that is, tell me what your home is worth if I cut a notch in that thing right there. And knowing that that is the lowest point in the whole berming program is right where those houses are. So that would be a drastic loss. You would never be able to sell your homes. I'll say that openly. So that's that. Next, we went to Osprey nesting platform. Fortis did a new power line that goes through this was last spring, 2013 spring, that goes through the Mercer Hughes lands. And this was just an opportunity. Ducks Unlimited gave us a grant for $1,600. There's Athena Environmental from High River. They gave a grant of $250, so that covers the cost of getting it done. And there's also an individual in town that has donated his time and resources to actually build the Osprey nesting platform. This area isn't a big area that's known for its osprey or anything, but they are important structures to have because we do see them in the spring, etc. And they can nest on those power poles, so we'd rather give them a place to nest that isn't on the power poles. That makes sense. So council approved that, so you'll be seeing that go up on the Mercer Hughes lands. I don't know exactly where it's going to be put, but that was approved. The next one, this is the snake pit. Hibernacula. At the Mercer Hughes lands, the old Mercer house and the farm buildings and everything obviously were highly impacted with the flood and are going to be demolished and everything. This was just an opportunity that got brought to us actually a year ago to turn the basement area of that house into a snake hibernacula. When I first heard about it, I'm like, oh, why in God's name would we ever do that? Problem is, not the problem. Reality is that we do have garter snakes around here. They're the tamest snake. You can pick them up and pet them. They won't do a darn thing to you. They're not dangerous at all. It's the only snake we have around here. So Kim Unger brought this to us again today, and we talked about it. And we all asked a lot of questions to make sure that this wasn't going to be something that would scare residents away from High River or was going to be dangerous to residents at all. Basically, it's just using the existing foundation. You cut the top 2 feet off of it. Those pieces go into the bottom of the foundation. You fill the rest. There's sandstone, rocks, and debris and logs and stuff. You fill it all up. Then you put a dirt cap over the top, and it just creates voids in there. So in the wintertime, these snakes have somewhere to go. To me, it's a really cool thing. In all honesty, it's just to do those kinds of things. That's what that area through there, that's what we want to use it for. It's primarily a floodway, but we can also use it as a nature area through there. And you know, putting a man-made structure back to nature like this is something that I support 100%. And but if you have any concerns or questions about it, please contact me. Like I said, this is not something that's going to attract any poisonous rattlesnakes from Medicine Hat. They're not going to look at it and, man, here have a cool new snake pit in High River, and they start migrating from Medicine Hat. So it's not going to happen. It's too cold here for them. So that was that. You got a snake pit. Future of Wallaceville, this was just to establish parameters as to how we want to use these areas. Of course, it's continuation from the Mercer Hughes lands down the river. This is all going to be looked at when we do the new infrastructure and designing the new bridge and the roadway that goes through there to the northwest part of town. And we just made a motion to, I should actually have that motion in front of me. The motion was the council direct administration convey to the GOA that the town of High River only supports passive, low-intensity recreational uses on the Wallaceville lands. So what we don't want is, in the future, for anyone to be allowed to put any structures up there that, you know, would be demolished, because we're building that to handle water. So why would we build anything that would be damaged by floodwaters? So we put that in there. We want to make sure that we're protecting that whole strip up through between, you know, that river floodway that we've designed through there. We want to make sure that that's protected for eternity, actually, that no serious building will ever, or development can ever go on in there. 2013 changed things, and we just cannot go back and start making mistakes after this. So last thing we did was the downtown United Church parking, and this has been not debated, but been discussed for a few weeks now, is exactly what we want to do there. So what it's going to be in front of the United Church now is paver stones that are going to be built so that they can handle the weight of vehicles being on there now and then. It is not going to be a parking area. It's only used for funeral and wedding events. It'll be a 6-inch rolled curb so we can get the vehicles up on there, and then they drive off easily and gone to wherever the other event is, cemetery or the you know, community center, or wherever the wedding is going to. So that's all done, taken care of. The United Church, we've talked to the ministers and board members. They're on the same page as we are with it. They like it. We just really didn't want to sacrifice the design of what we're doing downtown. I think this is a perfect win-win for both of us, that we all get what we need out of this. So that was it for the council meeting. The last one, the High River Community Renewal Poll. We've got about 2,500, 2,600 people that have responded to this poll. There's 5,200 homes in High River, so we're kind of on that 50% range of where we're at. Two important things. If you live in High River, we really want you to take the poll. There's two ways of doing it. highriverpoll.malatest.net. That website address is on highriver.ca. You can get it there. If you don't have internet access, you can also phone in and do the test there as well. If you've moved away from High River, we still want to hear from you. We want to know why you moved. What were your reasons? You know, was it DRP, insurance, job? What was it that had you move away from High River? If you're new to High River, we've had an enormous amount of people that have moved to this town since 2013 event. We want you to take the poll too. Tell us why you moved to High River, and from there, I can't tell you how important this thing is that we have as many people as possible take part in this poll, because we don't have any way of doing a federal census. It's an extremely costly thing to go through. We're doing this through a grant from the Calgary Foundation. Thank you very much for that. But this is our only way to get a real gauge. I am asked constantly, how many people live in High River? What's the status of this town? Is da-da-da-da-da. We want to hear from you. You need to tell us so that we can make decisions based on that. Are we missing something? Are we doing great things with one area but lacking somewhere else? Your council needs to hear this, and the administration needs to hear this, so that we can make the proper decisions for, for rebuilding this community. So there are prizes to be won if you take part of it. There's $10, $100 gift certificates that go for various High River businesses. All your responses are confidential. I've had a few responses on my Facebook page to this is, I quit the test because my income level is absolutely no business of yours. You're absolutely right, but we're not asking for your tax return on this thing. It's just, it's a wide gap of income levels that do give us information as to where we're at in High River. If you do not want to give us that information in any way, shape, or form, I completely understand it 100%. There's a box at the bottom that says no response. Click no response and you can move on to the next question. But all the responses are confidential. We are not going to be Facebooking anybody's responses to this thing. So it's all being part of a community, and we need as much information in order for us to operate this community properly. So that's it. Email me, csnodgrass@highriver.ca. If you have any questions, you can contact me on Facebook. I want to stress how important Facebook communication is. I know some of you don't like to be on Facebook or don't want to be on Facebook, but we use that as our primary communications tool. The High River Times does an excellent job. Sun Country, High River Online, AM 1140, they all do an excellent job of helping us get this information out. But you know, Facebook is one that I can update every morning or all throughout the day on things that are happening and asking questions and getting conversations going. So please use that. Please use my mayor's page, Craig Snodgrass, Mayor of High River, not my personal page. That's got a whole bunch of other stuff on it. You don't want. That's it. You can contact any counselor that you want as well, or contact administration if you need anything. Thank you very much.